Awesome. It's not working. Hi, everyone. My name's Rose of Dawn, and welcome to the Rose Pill, which has been a little bit delayed because Google's brilliant. Google's absolutely fantastic.
The true story is that Rose could not find the Hangout link, which sounds stupid, but it's not. I've had the same problem before. Last time it took me nearly half an hour. I wasn't overdue because I was setting it up way in advance, but like, holy shit, Google makes it difficult to find the way to set Hangouts.
Yeah. They do. Like you think even when you follow the tutorials to do it, it's like, oh, just click on quick hangout and you can do it that way. But there isn't like
that's not
quite how it works. And then
no, that's not a hangout on air either. There's a difference between a hangout and a hangout on air. Oh my god, Google, please. This is generally why I suggest people try and use OBS or something like that. I've had horrible luck with Hangouts in the past. Any of you who've watched the ill-fated Dumping with Scrump live shows will know how badly Google Hangouts can go. I have actually banned Dev from using the system until he can work OBS properly. Like, that's why we don't do live streams anymore.
I think that's what I might do in the future. Actually, set up a proper live streaming thing. You know, because you see like some of the big streams and they do that, but I think a lot of me is just kind of used to Google Hangouts because of like going on things like unpopular opinions, where it is basically just this. But I do need to work on it a little bit because I'm having like a stream hopefully in the next few weeks with Book Angel, who I'm going to be getting on. So I actually want to, you know, I want it to actually look big in a way and not just have the generic Google Hangout stream. But so I might as well just introduce the guests. I'm sure everyone here knows Scrump. Scrump, if people don't know who you are, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Scrump, formerly known as Scrump Monkey. Not many people call me that anymore. I'm just Scrump. I'm somebody who keeps getting banned off Twitter, and for some reason, everyone keeps letting me on their live streams and YouTube channels. I literally don't do anything. I don't know many people know who I am. If you want to look at my newest temporary account, because they're all just temporary accounts, I'm at Lord Scrump currently. If you want to see a mix of pointless shit posting and like man shakes fist at cloud level takes on the news. I also am one half of the show Dumping with Scrump over on the Short Fat Attacker channel. And I realized recently that nearly 30,000 people watch those episodes now, so I feel a bit weird about that because I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants like I am now. I literally have a pint in my hand.
But you are becoming a bit more of a big name. Like, need I remind you about Manchester the other week when there was that guy who was like a fan of yours, and like not just of Angular, but of yours, who turned up.
And then we had to turf him out the apartment.
Oh god, yeah. He didn't even. That was weird because he didn't. Like, there's not many pictures of you online. So Dank, I get that because, you know, he's quite famous. But the fact he was like, oh my god, I'm a fan of Scrump as well. Like I literally have only known you as this Mario star thing. It's only in the last month that I've actually been able to put a picture, like a face to it.
We should probably introduce Sophia because
I'm probably a good
idea. The room now.
Yeah, so Sophia is probably the person who does the most in this kind of stream in terms of actual contributions to stuff, which is good. So Sophia, if people for people who might not know who you are, just tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Sophia Narwitz. You can find me on Twitter at sophnar0747. I'm a writer, journalist of sorts, I guess. I write for nichegamer.com. Articles on Daily Caller for some reason, Red State, One Angry Gamer, and my own YouTube channel. And then, yeah, I don't know. I hate talking about myself like that, but I'm just a writer. But I do good work.
You've done some really big things in like the past couple of weeks. I mean, there was the whole Laura Kate Dale thing, which
that was
completely exploded.
What? I'm so glad I was able to finally write that because that is a piece I wanted to do for the longest fucking time. And she finally just fucked up in a way I could be like, oh, cool, I can finally do this.
I don't blame you. It's like I've always had issues with her. Like I remember one of the things that you mentioned in that article was about
she lied about getting kidnapped. I just need to express that to people. She fucking lied about being kidnapped at E3. Like it's insane. She's a psycho. But,
she is.
Sorry, I just had to express that because I just want to scream that at people who like her work. Like she's such a fucking liar.
Oh God. Like, I remember, I think it was 2013. That was when she was at the Xbox thing where she said that the person was like giving her abuse on stage. And I
He
remember,
called me it, that
Yeah.
person, thing, he, and all these things.
because at the time I wrote for Gay Star News and I actually covered that as a, you know, as like actual piece because I was a writer for them at the time. And I remember I tried to get a comment off her and she was like, you know, she didn't want anyone to report on it at all. And looking back on it, now I realize it's because she knew she was making it up. And if people are going to start running with it, it's going to make her look pretty bad. And surprisingly, it didn't because she was able to get a job at Kotaku.
Here's my thing about how that happened. So what it was he called her this person, which is a gender neutral term. He was on stage with her and he said like this person here or something like that.
And so be celebrated.
So she is very much one of those people who has to be a victim. She's always trying to act like she's the victim. And so I think she heard this person and was like, oh, he just transphobic, blah, 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 even though it's gender neutral. So I very much believe that she then went on Twitter to tell people like, oh, he called me this. And then as she was starting to write, he called me this person. She must have been like, oh, people are going to realize that's not transphobic. And so I truly believe as she was sitting there typing at her computer, she was like, oh, this person isn't bad enough. So then she made up, he called me he, it, thing. And then it just went from there.
Can I also just point out that Laura Kate Dale has blue hair? Like, she really looks like a stereotype, like, gamer SJW trans woman.
Not to judge people by how they look, but you should see what her partner looks like. It's her co-host they have a podcast called Queer and Pleasant Strangers. And if you want to talk about cliche SJW looking person, I'm just saying her partner is it.
My favorite thing about the whole Laura Kate Dale it on stage thing was the Kotaku article basically saying they'd worked out their differences and agreed to disagree. And I'm like, what? Nigga, what? Excuse me? Like, she provably lied. Like, it's just, oh, well, we've decided to put this whole thing behind. It's like, no, fuck you. You lied. You lied and we have proof. Oh God. Yeah, this isn't a Laura Kate Dale stream, but I will say that Sophia has done a lot of good serious shit recently. Not to brag. Notably,
it was the piece. Sorry,
go on. No, the piece you did most recently about the bullying in games journalism. Yes, I thought it was excellent.
That is by far the biggest piece of my career, and I'm still kind of riding that high.
Oh, it was a really good piece. If I can just bring it back to Laura Kate Dale, just one more point, because this is something which has always annoyed me about her. I remember a couple of years ago, there was an episode of South Park where I think it was one where they install like a gender neutral bathroom.
The sissy episode.
Yeah, and like Cartman takes advantage of it. And I remember Laura did like a live tweeting of her watching the episode, and all of it was just, this is so problematic. This is so hurtful, you guys. And it's like,
it's a very progressive episode, actually.
Really
a lot of people, that's the thing with South Park, is a lot of people miss the satire, and a lot of people miss a lot of the certain side of people. They miss a lot of the true meaning that the creators are trying to get across. And in that episode, yes, you have Cartman taking advantage of the sissy thing, but side story of this episode is Randy Marsh it's when he's getting into his Lord character, and he'll be like, I'm Lord, yeah, and he's the singer Lord, and he dresses up as a woman to do this. And so there's a scene where his wife gives him a speech. She's like, I don't care if you like dressing up as a woman, I accept you as you, I want you to be happy. And it's a very progressive pro-trans message. But somehow most people, there was a lot of Tumblr rage at this episode, and they miss that because they're so focused on the jokes, thinking that they're the butt of the jokes. But you're not supposed to side with Cartman, but yet it's a very pro-trans episode.
Especially when you compare it to the way that they used to be as well. Like, it's such a complete flip over from when, the one where Mr. Garrison gets a sex change and becomes Mrs. Garrison, where they basically are saying getting a sex change is like becoming a dolphin and stuff like that. Whereas this shows them, they opinions on this trans stuff had massively changed, but that wasn't good enough for people. And you end up having people like Dale who just take offense and then they run at it people would rather hear that something is hurtful, that it's painful to watch, that we're being oppressed. That's so much an easier message for people to swallow than
it's also absurdist humor. It's just the point is that like Randy Marsh being Lord is just funny, and the fact that they keep doing it, like they keep returning to the joke. It's like a running joke. It's like, oh yeah, I have to go to world tour now, and it just again, I can't understand people getting offended by South Park because a lot of it is so patently absurd. It's meant to be like it's mildly surreal. That's the point.
Yeah,
that's the joke. Randy Marsh being Lord is absurd. That's where the humor comes from.
And a lot of this comes from too is that a lot of people, it's one of those shows where people are like, oh, I like it, I love it, until they make fun of me.
Yeah.
Like, because you had the guy who used to voice Chef, and I'm blanking on his name, but the singer. Isaac Hayes. And like, he was on that show as they were making fun of everything, but then the moment they made fun of Scientology, he was like, oh, that was too far, I've got to go.
Yeah.
And but what's funny about Laura Kay, bring it back around, is that because I'm a writer, I listen to a lot of what these people say. So I actually subject myself to torture each week and listen to the Waypoint podcast, the Jimquisition, Giant Bomb, and all these podcasts. And I like it, quick side note, because people are candid on this. So that's where they'll open up about more of their opinions. You can really kind of tell like some of the shit they do. Anyways, Laura Kay was once talking about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and how much she loves that show, and how like it's funny because they're all bad people. But there's one episode where they make some trans jokes, and she's like, that would like, she almost quit watching the show because of that. So it's very much like they can make fun of everything, but then the moment they make fun of the one thing you are, these people just break down, not realizing that they've been laughing at everything else.
Oh yeah, they only care once it's them that are being offended by it. But like, I go back to the point where they at the same time, I think they love it because it gives them something to talk about. It gives them something to grasp onto as a way of showing just how hard it is to be them. But they don't really see it from any other angle other than themselves. And that's really what a victim is, like a professional victim. And Laura is someone who has always fit into that. And I think that's why she's had quite a little bit of like success with a lot of these queer angles to it. Just to kind of interrupt the flow, because I actually have a super chat for the first time ever. Like I forgot to switch on super chat when I did the stream with Dank, and then I felt like an idiot, but I actually have a super chat, and it's from Architect of Fate. Hello, Scrump and Rose. It's wonderful to see the lovely couple on the same stream. So when are you going to follow the Dank and Sue route?
Whoa! I don't get you don't say hi to me. Well, fuck you.
Haha, Sophia, you don't exist. No,
I've been unpersoned.
You've been unpersoned. How does it feel?
I'm offended. I'm going to go on like a 20 tweet rant thread now. And he called me it, he, and thing as he said hi to you. Architect of Fate, whilst Rose is a very lovely girl and not bad on the eyes, I will say I do already have a girlfriend, so I'm afraid that's rather unlikely.
And
but
just to add, I've met Jess, who's Scrump's girlfriend, and she is absolutely lovely.
She is, and well, you know, don't let her talking about straws with Mosley, but she's quite lovely. Yes,
she has some very interesting in political views. Let's just say. We also have
Mitch. I see you, Mitch. I see you saying Scrump is gay for £2.
Notice me, senpais from Chris Nemo. Kick Scrump from Patrick. If I kick Scrump, I wouldn't really have much of a stream.
People are throwing money at you to get at me. This is quite a fortuitous turn of events.
Well, I'm actually, I feel like I'm part of something now. I also have someone asking everyone to subscribe to Dr. Random Account. But Scrump can vouch. I don't quite get that.
Dr. Random Account's pretty cool. I met him a couple of times. He used to be part of the Honey Badgers when they were around. He was kind of big during the whole gaming thing. He's okay. I once saw him drunkenly trying to explain Gamergate to a couple of thoughts, though, and it's quite funny on a night out. We're trying to get rid of them at the time, so that was pretty good. He managed to bamboozle them. Have you ever seen a drunken man trying to explain Gamergate to scantily clad women in Manchester at 2 a.m.? It's quite a glorious sight. I will tell you that much.
Manchester was speaking of Manchester, it was absolutely the night out we had the other week was absolutely awesome. We were just in that one bar on Canal Street, like up until like. Well, I can't even actually remember a lot of it, but there was lots of us who were actually out there.
Yeah, you and me both.
Super chatting to Own the Libs.
Yes. Thank you, Chris Nemo.
Well,
apparently the honey badgers are still a thing, but they could have fooled me. I've not seen much from them in a while.
Yeah, like the name rings a bell. I can't say that I've seen much of them in a while, but anyway, let's kind of let's get back on topic. If there's any more super chats, I will read them out in a little bit. So one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, I thought would be quite interesting because Sophia, you've written for what some would say is like centre-right, right-wing publications, and
yes,
it hasn't exactly gone down well with a lot of the queer community, so to speak.
No, I mean, to be fair, my very first article at a major site was called Whiny and Broken, the Linguistic Minefield of Today's Politically Correct Tranny. And it was very much about, you have this whole sect of trans people that are getting offended over if you say trap or tranny. And I love the word tranny. I love that word. Or a new thing is people get offended by transgendered. If you put an ED at the end of the word transgender, people get offended now.
I'm not offended by that, but it really annoys me when people say it. It's like when people say Legos. It's that
Legos.
kind of,
but it's not. But it's not. But I mean,
get offended by it. I wouldn't or anything like that.
But there's people that say it's transphobic. That's where my article was tearing down was the thing that saying transgendered with an E is transphobic, because it's not transphobic.
No. And
so that was like my first article, and for obvious reasons that upset a bunch of people. And then for Red State, I wrote one about how kind of like the gay community is kind of like hurting gay people the most, just with like promoting the childhood drag queens, like those kids that are heavily sexualized and dancing in strip clubs and stuff like that. And it was just kind of going into like the absurdity of it. Or Assassin's Creed, there was a controversy with that game, and a bunch of gay people got upset with it, and just even GLAAD got involved, and it was like the dumbest non-controversy.
That was the latest Assassin's Creed, wasn't it? And it was something to do with, it makes your character canonically straight or something.
Well, your character has a baby to carry on their lineage, because it's Assassin's Creed. It's very much about carrying, your lineage going forward. And so, like, there's a trophy in the game when you complete the story called Growing Up. Obviously, Growing Up is in reference to the baby. That the gay community took the Growing Up trophy name as, they're trying to say being gay is a phase and that you're growing out of it.
That's a reach.
And they took it in the they took it in the most absurd direction. And so Ubisoft actually changed the name of the trophy, and GLAAD stepped in to work with them. And it was just the dumbest thing ever, because your character is still gay. Like in the story, if you're playing that certain character, you can still rationalize, they're just sleeping with the person of the opposite sex just to get impregnated. But because, it's ancient Greece, like you needed to have a kid to carry on your family. And that's what they're doing. And
I also remember, I think it's Assassin's Creed Syndicate, where it has a trans guy as one of the characters, and it's like not, like absolutely no one says a thing at all. It's just seen as this like, oh yeah, by the way, everyone just treats this trans guy like he's just any ordinary guy, even though he's like pretty effeminate, which I found really, really weird in terms of the whole kind of tone of particular of Victorian England, where people were going to be like a little bit more on the nose, and things like that, and you just have this kind of weaselly American trans man, and everyone's just like, oh yeah, that's cool. It felt very much like it was clearly forced to be in there. Like it wasn't anything which is particularly organic about the series. And I don't like, if it was in one of the, let's say if it was in like a modern day bit, which I don't think have been in any of the games for a while, like that having trans guy there might have made a little bit more sense. But it's just a little bit weird that it's Victorian England and it's no one is fazed by it.
The big thing I've found that like people can't criticize bad fiction if identity politics are involved. It's generally the point that people aren't criticizing the fact that the person's there. It's the fact the person's very out of place. It's like, well, how dare you say this is out of place? It's like, well, it is.
Yeah,
it's distracting and it's kind of weird, and it's like it annoys me because it's patronizing. I think it implies that people don't want well-told stories. It implies that people want these shallow kind of tokenistic stories. Well, and if you speak out about the fact that these are bad or that these are low quality, you get labeled. And I think that the problem has come that a lot of studios have realized that if they put something woke, quote unquote, in their game, it becomes a shield against criticism.
And real quick, too, Chris Nemo just donated $2 and said sleeping with women to own the hets. And that reminded me of something really cringy about the Assassin's Creed thing, is that people started using the term het-conning, that they were heterosexually retconning the character, so it was het-conning, all because your character had a baby in a loveless relationship.
That's kind of weird. I don't know. It's the past was the past. The past is kind of shitty for LGBT representation. I'm sorry. The past isn't a more friendly and perfect place. You can't redefine history. Shrug. I don't get that. I don't get the point of wanting to retcon that out of the world. It's the thing that bothers me, especially with the fact that there's a whole discussion going on. I know a lot of people who are, let's say, quite far to the right. Some of those people don't like me very much. A lot of people call me a Nazi. Then again, a lot of people who are genuinely that way think I'm some kind of degenerate. So you can't really win that way. But a lot of those types of people find this policing and nitpicking proof that they shouldn't have given gay people rights. Yeah. Because it starts to look like a slippery slope. It's like, well, we gave you this and then you just wanted more. It's like, it's very annoying because it makes people who are genuinely enemies of basic rights for gay and trans people look correct in what they've been saying all along. It makes the slippery slope argument look correct. And in a sense, I think a lot of people are overreaching. A lot of what we'll be talking about here, the policing of entry, the policing of labels, the unpersoning of people having their own opinions, it's all a matter of overreach. It's all a fact that essentially when the gay marriage stuff went through in the US and a lot of it in Europe, that essentially the big end goal of a lot of LGBT activism ended. Like that was the big thing a lot of people were working towards. And they become all these political organizations, they become all these donations and large money-making things, and they wanted to keep it going. They wanted to keep the good times rolling in, and therefore they have to find new things to turn their ire on. And that's essentially what a lot of this is. It's an industry.
And this is exactly... A lot of people... Sorry.
I'm ranting now, but I've just finished my point. A lot of people won't call it out, but it is. It is basically, it's nothing to do with rights. It's an industry. It's a grievance industry.
Like, it's... I think you touched on a good point that they're trying to find things to get outraged about. And you will see that with any intersectional movement, any of these like rights movements, a lot of what they were originally fighting for has now been accomplished. So what do you do then? You're no longer the victims. You're no longer being oppressed. You've got to find something to justify your pay packet. And groups like Stonewall are very good at doing that. When they're constantly running things like, for example, like they have the Workplace 100 in the UK, which is, the 100 greatest employers. And then they constantly change up on what the acceptable criteria is. So it inevitably catches people out. And there was a big uproar when a couple of years ago they added non-binary and trans criteria to what they would usually look at. And that includes things like gender neutral bathrooms and choose your own pronoun badges and all of these quite ludicrous like demands, but they constantly have to find something to do. And it's the same with the trans community just in general. In fact, look at any movement and they do it. Just before I forget, I just want to read out a couple of more super chats. I'm absolutely loving this. Thank you all so much. Yes, the eunuch says, trap and tranny are great. Don't stop using them. Personally, I love the word trap. I really, really like it. I don't get why that's transphobic. I think I've made this point before, but people who think that trap is transphobic will never be called a trap. These are the people who look like a cheeseburger. Like no one's going to think, oh my God, that's a woman. And so it always comes across a little bit of jealousy. I'm also with Sophia in thinking that tranny is a pretty good word.
Also, with people that get offended by traps, a lot of them aren't even people that are actually trans. I think you get a lot of people who being trans has become I don't want to say a popularity contest online, but there's people that claim it for themselves, like secret gamer girl who's some big fat dude with a fucking beard. And so these are the people getting offended by these words because they're not even feminine, but so many people have begun to latch on and claim that they're trans. And one big problem with the trans movement in general, and this is with like the non-binary bathrooms or these choose your own pronouns, is like, you can't just wake up one morning, say you're trans and you're trans. You can't just wake up as a boy and then decide, oh, I'm going to be a girl today. And you start living as that. Being trans is coming out and transitioning is a process, but in a lot of places you can just say you are something now, and that's all it takes. You don't need to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria. You don't need to see a doctor. You don't even need to be on hormones or starting treatment or transitioning. You can just claim you're something, and that's really setting trans rights back, because again, when you have these people that are super masculine and going into certain areas with women when they're clearly not trans, it's setting a really bad precedent.
It really is. And I also mainly hate that kind of the whole opt-in onto it, because I worked a hell of a lot to get where I am now. Like, and when you then see people that's just like, oh, I'm whamming now. Gibbs, insert whatever whamming thing that you want.
Yeah,
look at me. Look at me.
Shit to get
I am the woman now.
What's weird too is that you have people like Charlotte Clymer, who I'm still questioning if they're transgender or not, but like, so they came out as trans, hadn't started hormones yet, didn't have a legal ID, their ID still stated them as male, so they hadn't done the process.
Right.
And they were using a woman's bathroom at a bar less than 6 months after they came out as trans. And it became this big news story. And Charlotte Clymer is big in like the Think Progress people, like the far left, really tied in with like the human rights campaign and all that.
Yeah.
And it became this big news story about like this bar wouldn't let a trans woman use the bathroom of her gender. But again, and this was after the bouncer checked their ID, and their ID said male. And like, when I came out as trans and started transitioning, it took me like 2 years till I could like get myself to where I felt like I was ready to use a bathroom, where I felt I was passable enough. I wouldn't make people uncomfortable. But you have these people like within like just months of like started saying that they're this gender, whether they've started transitioning, meds, anything at all, they're just rushing into these places. And it's so based off, I mean, I can only speak to my own experience, but it's so unnatural based off my experience, given like, even like, as Scrum can attest, I'm not a bad looking person, and I'm still terrified anytime I've got to go into a woman's restroom, because it's still like this uncomfortable feeling. And it's just so weird that these like masculine looking quote unquote women are like, it's just weird and creepy to me.
Yeah.
And as the resident trap connoisseur, I will say that Sophia does look pretty good. So
yeah, I've seen pictures of Sophia, and she looks amazing. Really does. I just want to kind of touch, because I think this is something whenever you kind of hear, maybe like from the more gender critical side, with like, they don't quite understand when a trans woman is wanting to use something like, say, a changing room or a bathroom. A lot of us don't want to go in there unless it is, we know that we're not making people uncomfortable, but also we won't feel uncomfortable because people won't see us as male. Like, it took me a long time to start using women's bathrooms, and one of the things that really pushed me into it was other women who were like getting me more socialized. Especially when it comes to things like changing rooms, like this whole idea that you do get these people that are like, oh, I'm just gonna let my dick hang out in the changing room because, you know, I'm a woman. This is a woman's penis.
I won't even use locker rooms at the gym. I work out twice a day, and I will not use the locker room at my local gym. Like, I don't want to put women in that position of having a swinging cock in there.
But I suppose there's also going to be a side of you that doesn't want to put you're not going to want other people to see that. You've done a lot of work to get where you are. You don't want to instantly out yourself. Like, there's so many different layers when it comes to things like bathrooms, like changing rooms. like a lot of trans women, like what I will say is like reasonable, sane trans women, your average trans woman does not want people to feel awkward. And so we will not just wander in, dick waving around everywhere, because that's fucking weird.
That, and we usually feel more awkward than anything. Like most
God,
like
yeah.
actual trans people I know are like, those situations are uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, like hell, I'm several years post-op. I will still, if I'm in a changing room which has separate cubicles, I will use those cubicles. Like I will very, very, very rarely get changed in like open, because I still kind of feel a little bit self-conscious about that. And I always worry, what if I'm making other people feel awkward? Like, I don't think I do. I've never been told that I do. And a lot of people have been, chatted to me like I was any other woman in these things. But it doesn't take that away that you always have these concerns when you're going through all this. And this needs to be acknowledged. And when you get these people, whether it's weirdos like Jonathan Yaniv, or like, well, I say weirdo, like actual dangerous predator, like hopefully the stream doesn't get taken down now I've said his name, but you get these people who just seem to think, well, I'm a woman now because I say so. And this is why I've kind of always hated the trans women or women mantra, because that what they mean is, what the people who use it are the low effort ones. The people who've never put in any effort, and they want, then they say it because they think it makes them as valid as somebody like, or someone like me or Sophia.
As an outsider, as more of an outsider to this, I
Yeah.
think a big part of it is just common sense. A lot of people make this into a very complex argument when it really isn't. I disagree with a lot of stuff like the bathroom bill that North Carolina had. I thought that was very stupid.
Yeah.
Because are you going to start checking people's genitals? That's the thing. If somebody passes very well and you say, well, you can't use the female bathroom because you weren't born female, that's reductive. That's retarded. I think it's a point of, if you look female, if you act female, if people accept you at a glance as female, if you do not make people uncomfortable, use the bathroom.
Yeah.
If you're not sure, ask, seek advice. It can be a tricky situation for some to feel that they're ready. But again, it's a matter of discretion, a matter of common sense. It really is.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people make it a lot more complex than it is. It's not an absolute one or the other. It's an argument of nuance. And because people can't seem to make arguments of nuance anymore, they can't seem to see any kind of center ground between two very, very far extremes, the entire debate gets lost. I always make the point to people that people who are genuinely transgender, genuinely suffer with gender dysphoria, are a very, very small percentage of the population.
Yeah. Oh, we are.
It's a big issue in the public eye for a very, very small amount of people.
I think one problem though is a lot of people are being convinced they're trans when they're not. Like, there's some people that just enjoy cross-dressing, or there's some people that may just be effeminate, or they're effeminate, or there might be some women that are just masculine. But we live in this world now where they're being, from a young age, told that they could be trans, and in a lot of cases they probably aren't, because yes, the amount of trans people in the world is a pretty small number. It should be less than 1%.
It is, and we're seeing, we have the whole trans umbrella. I think I spoke about this in the past, where you have people, including butch women and feminine men, and that in itself is like, right, you're now trans because you don't fit this really strict definition of what it means to be a man or a woman. And you end up with the weird irony of these like non-binary activists who are saying we need to tear down all these categories when they're enforcing them themselves. You have these weird like graphs from groups like Mermaids that put gender on like a scale, and one side is an action man, the other side is a Barbie. And so it's like, well, if you're, well, boys like this, so if you're not really into action men, you're only slightly a boy.
One thing that really scares me too with all this that is going on is that I truly believe there's a lot of kids who are being convinced that they're trans and being pressured into transitioning or going non-binary when they're not trans. Like, I used to babysit when I was a teenager, and this was before I ever came out as trans or anything. And one of the families I would watch kids for had a boy who liked wearing dresses. He wasn't trans. He just liked wearing his sister's like princess dresses. She had all these costumes. He's probably gay, like, but he might not even be, but he wasn't trans. And a few years ago, when I was speaking to a family member, I asked about him, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's not trans." But in today, he would probably be convinced he's trans, or like they would be pressured into transitioning. And I think what's happening now is a lot of kids who have these traits that are outside the gender norm are being convinced that they're this thing. And so my biggest fear is that in a couple years, when these kids get older, there's going to be like a lot of people detransitioning, and it's going to like, there's a lot of stuff happening now that if you look towards the future is going to set trans rights back, especially when you get like the bad actors on like, I myself in center right, but there are bad actors on especially the far right who are going to use this to like try to invalidate all trans people, or you're just going to have other people that are going to try to invalidate us based off what's happening with these kids. And like, it's scary, because I do think trans rights in the future are going to face problems big time.
It's a big locational problem too. A lot of these people who are the woke parents who are pushing their children as these, basically to get on the ladder of the progressive stack to make themselves look more woke and more victimized.
Was it Charlize Theron?
Well, it's the easiest thing that you can identify into. That it has no barriers anymore. You can't identify into a race. You can't.
Oh yeah.
You can kind of.
Rachel
Okay, Rachel Dolezal is like, okay.
Yeah, but she's
an outlier in this.
No, she got tarred and feathered for it. She became a social outcast. She got blasted by everybody. She got mocked by the right and rejected by the left.
But she did last a while. She was able to do it for a good long time before she was finally caught out. I mean, hell, like Sean King, he's pretty white.
Yeah,
and he's still able.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and he's still able to do it. But the point is, it's very, very difficult to self-identify into a race. In self-identifying into a sexuality. I mean, I do know people who say that they are bi when really they are straight, but they say it because they want to fit in with the queer crowd.
Which is weird, because
you've got to act on sexuality a little bit. But being trans, it used to be, well, you would have to present as that other gender, go down the medical route. But now that that's no longer seen as the thing, and so you can just say, you can take whatever medicines that you want, but you don't have to, because everyone is as valid as everyone else. Everybody wins. Everyone gets a participation fucking trophy.
In some states, you don't even need, like, so when I changed my gender, early in 2016 is when I did like the official legal documents. I got my name and gender changed in court. But and I had to have a doctor's note. I had all this stuff. My doctor had to be like, yep, she's been working with me for a couple of years. She's transitioning. She's lived full time for this long. And I go through this thing. But now in some states, you don't even need a doctor's note to change your gender marker on your driver's license. You can just claim you're something. And that's such a bad route to go.
Well, is that not what Danielle Moscato did? Well, say Danielle, it's Daniel, isn't it? Though David Moscato. The like the kind of like the fat balding guy who says that he doesn't want a job anymore because he's going to fight for Black Lives Matter, but he's a trans woman and has like done literally nothing in a transition, but was able to get his driver's license marker changed, I believe.
I'm not quite sure who that is.
Neither am I.
Like Scrump, you were able to share screen before. Are you able to go on Google and type in Danielle Moscato?
Danielle Moscato. How do you spell that?
Moscato, M-U-S.
Moscato, here we go. Danielle Moscato, trans.
Yes.
Oh, this guy. It's I have vague corrections. Oh, there's a great image here. There's a great image.
Just before you go into it, I do need to read a couple of super chats. I realize it's been quite a long time.
Oh yeah, there has been. I'll read a couple if you want. Well, it's Zero Dunu, and if I'm saying that right, it says, "Here's some shekels from Australia's sidecar." I'm assuming that means New Zealand. Greetings. Apologies for your government going so batshit. That's global politics' fault, but you seem to have become the bitch of everyone else's intelligence agencies. So I don't know.
Evil Moif. DKK. I don't know what kind of currency that is, but it sounds like a lot. Thank you. Hi, Rose and friends. Love your channel, Rose. And I'm so glad there are other trans girls out there who don't subscribe to this postmodern madness. I'm really glad that you're enjoying my stuff. What I would like to do is, like, Thankfully, I'm not the only one. There are quite a few of us. Go check out Sophia's channel. She's been doing some really good videos recently. Other people that I can recommend, Miss London is quite good. Trying to Make Girl, if you haven't heard of her. I think what I would love to do is kind of get as big a group of us as I possibly can, like lots of these more kind of based trannies, people like Lilith.
Yes,
if we can actually get her on,
she's a bit ethereal.
Yeah, exactly.
she keeps strange hours and is quite hard to pin down. Well, physically she's quite easy to pin. No, oh my
god. He's saying that from experience.
I do.
Anyway, let's not into that. No, she's a bit. Yeah, she comes and goes as she pleases. She's quite like a cat. But,
I do.
I would love to get like a big group of us together and actually just kind of do like a regular, like, red pilling of the trans community and letting people know that we are out here. We are, and we can rise up and take down the actual crazy trannies. I mean, we've just got Buck Angel, who has been seen as by a lot of these activists as like the golden grail. He's now come out as being true scum, which is incredible.
Well, if I may say something too, I do think a stream of that size would be important because I'm sure you get messages like this, and I'm guessing Lilith does as well, but I get almost weekly, I'll get a message from one or two people who are trans. They're usually small accounts on Twitter, like 200 less followers. And they'll be like, I really like what you do. I share a lot of the same thoughts, and I'm just scared to say it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people who aren't trans anyways, that they don't understand that, like, when you come out and start saying some of the stuff you and I and Lilith and others say, the wave of hate you get, it pushes most people. It makes them afraid to speak up. Like the very first time I ever came out, like I was dogpiled so hard. I deleted a bunch of tweets. This was like 2 years ago. I just deleted a bunch of stuff, and I was just shell shocked by like how hateful the trans and LGBT community was. And then eventually I just got to the point. I was like, I don't fucking care anymore. People call me all this shit all the time, and I just laugh.
Yeah.
But when you're not used to being dogpiled, the first time that wave of hate gets you, and the woke crowd will do that. They will dogpile people, and
they do.
And so there's all these trans people that are afraid of coming out. There's a lot of trans people that agree with the stuff we say. There's a lot of people that think that this nonsense has gone too far, but they're afraid to say it. And so, like, when people like us are more vocal about it, more people are eventually going to come forward. And I think that is very important.
I think that this is one of the reasons why I kind of moved the focus of my channel into being purely trans stuff, because my original idea of the channel was going to be more along the lines of like kind of classic libertarian points of view. It was not intended to just be trans stuff. Like when I decided to launch it, it was after meeting Sargon in like March last year for the first time, and after chatting with him, I was like, I'm going to do this. And now, like, I kind of realized how much damage a lot of the dangerous narrative that's coming out is really doing, and I feel like it's a moral duty almost to speak out against this. I have that power to do that, and it's a weird feeling. Like I've got over 2,000 subscribers now, and that is a weird feeling in itself. But I want to be someone now that can actually be looked at as an example of there is another way of being trans.
Here we go, by the way. I have David Moscato if you want to present me to everyone for a little bit.
Okay.
I can't find a higher res version of this image, but this is the before and after of not Daniel, Dave Moscato. This is the before and after of Dave Moscato's supposed transition in quote marks. This is it Dave Moscato? Oh, it says Daniel Moscato here. Okay, so he was Dave Moscato and now he's Danielle Moscato. Very original. That's like almost like a parody. Oh my god, that's terrible.
He's a terrible. It's like the amazing thing about David Moscato is you go on his website and virtually, I mean, it's been a year since I last checked it. Last time I looked on his website, everything was that bearded picture, but he just changed the name from David to Danielle, and it's like no one's gonna take that fucking seriously. Like,
oh, dear.
Just the worst looking trans.
He makes 575 a month on Patreon, apparently, from doing this.
He just sits on someone's couch. Like, he refuses to get a job. And it's like, oh, I've got to fight for Black Lives Matter.
Yes, there's a Black Lives Matter thing here.
Yeah.
Civil rights activist.
White guy.
Resist podcast host. Resist podcast host, sorry. Trans woman, she/her. No. As seen in the New York Times, CNN, NPR, Rolling Stone. The thing is that these people are fun to laugh at, but they genuinely have influence. And people might read an article by this person, not realizing who they are or what they are. That they are basically a joke. That they are basically someone who is on the far end of some kind of spectrum. Probably not the spectrum they're hoping to be on, because they say gender is a spectrum. But people who one of the quotes that got people really mad was me saying that people who believe that gender is a spectrum belong on a different kind of spectrum.
Yes.
But that was just
so true. It's real. It's seriously, like, I am very kind of strict on this whole, there are generally two genders. I can kind of get the idea of if someone says they genuinely don't kind of identify as either, but I think that's such a weird, that would be such a weird outlier that it's like barely worth noticing.
The non-binary thing.
Non-binary has exploded.
It's become more counterculture than a legitimate gender. People are just doing it because that's what it is. It's a thing for points, and it's a counterculture. That's the best way to phrase it.
It's a cool thing to do. And like,
and
everyone I know.
It's easy. You don't have to go through any effort to be non-binary. Just say you are and you're done. It's an easy way for people to latch on to being trans, even though the way the trans community has let non-binary and all that be tacked in with them is really frustrating.
Yeah, and like I remember, like, I used to be a bit more of a part of London's queer community, and you would see like the NB kind of being spread, like, you know, like some sort of contagion, some sort of virus, as more and more people would get infected and then come out as just, now my pronouns are they and them, and they wouldn't change a thing. And I remember leaving this party one night, and I was with a couple of friends, and it was like me, this other girl, and there was this guy. And then we're on the tube, and the guy just kind of weirdly, it's kind of like the first stages of infection, almost, like seeing him do this. But he was like, I don't think I'm a guy. I don't think I want to be seen as a man. I think I might be non-binary. And the other girl who was with us was like, oh my God, that's so brave of you to say. And it's just like, and I was like, nope, shut up. You're not non-binary. You've never had these thoughts before. Just be quiet. And he never talked about it again. So it's kind of like, I was like the antidote that just got in so fast, and it seems to have, like, at least for now, kind of snapped a little bit of common sense into him.
Savage, absolutely owned.
But it had to. Because it is almost like a social condition that people have. It's something for people to fit in with, because it's such low effort. You can only benefit from it. In woke progressive groups, the more oppression points you can get, the better. And there is nothing nowadays that is less effort to do than saying that you are trans. You might be able to put disability in there, because a lot of people just say, I'm disabled. You don't have to say what your disability is. You can just be, I'm disabled. So those are two easy points that anyone can get. And a lot of these people who are doing it will be generally white middle class.
The one that irks me is all these people like Anna Valens, Brianna Wu, and people like that. Even Jussie Smollett claiming that they have PTSD. That's the popular one to claim that you're disabled, is they'll just appropriate PTSD when they've probably never had a breakdown of it in their entire life.
Just want to kind of go off a little bit topic and do some more super chats. Chris Nemo saying, it's ma'am. But yeah, they want the benefits without any of the effort. People don't become as passing as Rose without hard work. Last super chat. Well, thank you so much for all your super chats this evening, Chris. I really appreciate it. Architect of Fate, would you say you can come out as trans, but you have to earn the title of trap? Yes. Because you can't decide whether you are a trap. That has to be somebody else. Someone else has to give you that.
There's a lot of people use trap in different meanings. I quite like that. A lot of people are quite hardcore about separating the two. A lot of people, I can't understand why people get so worked up about that word. Like, it it means what people want it to mean. It's used in a very colloquial sense. It's used in quite a fun sense. It's a fun word. It's quite a, it's an interesting memey concept.
Can I just say I love being called a trap? I absolutely love it.
A lot of people like, hey, it's literally killing trans women. Like the person I see get that the most is fucking Lilith on Twitter.
Yeah.
There's these massive fucking walls that like it happens to me as well. But to maybe, I don't know, maybe not the same extent. I do get a lot of blowback for a lot of things I've made. I've had certain posts catch fire or certain things on video catch fire. But it's ridiculous the amount of screeching when you're making essentially what amounts to a fun post. It's not serious. People are getting annoyed over what is essentially a joke. It's like, no, why are you saying this is bad? Of course, it sounds strange to you, but do you think everyone is 100% serious about this? It's not every post somebody makes about traps or trans or whatever is an ideology.
No,
it's not a completely serious thing. I just wish people could relax about a fucking word. It irks me.
It's literally just a bit of fun, and you can have fun with the whole like just being trans and make it into a bit of a joke. Like I just love this thing as I think Jess posted it a few days ago. It's just like hippity hoppity trans women are property. I love shit like that.
And a big issue
joke about it. But then you have people speaking out. There was someone, I think it was yesterday, who was trying to say, well, Count Dankula wants to see all trans women as his slaves. I'm like,
woo.
No,
that's
maybe it's a fantasy of his, but
I think it's a fantasy of theirs from the posts I've seen. But Dankula was talking to me about the post I made. There was one. It's like this. It's adapted from a comic of a cat, and it's got Alstopo's face on it. It's, hey, do you want to see my butthole? It's like, I'm gonna show you my butthole real quick. And my caption was just like all the traps on Twitter, and people got really mad at me. And Dank's just like, but it's true.
It is true.
Oh, yeah.
It is true. Like, the traps are very, very thirsty.
They can be. It's like that. It's fun. Like a fun post like that, which is obviously just a meme.
Yeah.
Caused like a fight. There was like a fight over it.
It's because everyone's so super serious these days. Like you can't. There's so many of these folks just won't make jokes. And like me and my partner, like we always say like the most like what if other people heard us, they think we're like the most like offensive people on the planet, and we'll just laugh because of the silliness of it. But so many people can't get lost in the absurdity anymore. They're so like uptight all the time about all these things because they're always looking to be offended. It's that intersectionalism thing, you got to be the victim at all times. And it's the most harmless jokes are getting people in trouble now, and it's goofy.
Oh yeah, and like hell, remember the other week with the whole beards thing and the amount of people who were just like people getting very vicious about like there was one individual who was like going rounds to people who are following Lilith and saying, "Did you know that you're following Lilith Lovett and she said this about trans women with beards?" Like
it was like the hate I got when I was calling out secret gamer quote unquote girl.
Yeah.
The big fat dude with the big beard down to his fucking like belly. And I was getting so much hate for disrespecting trans women. I'm like, you guys look at the picture. And it's funny. It's funny though. Like I enjoy it, but like these people are so idiotic.
Well, they're nuts. And it has affected, like I get messages in Discord occasionally. Or people I've dated previously. Like if people find out I've been going out with them, I've got messages about me trying to like out me as some kind of bigot or transphobe, and they're like, well, obviously they know about my online persona since they know me online. It's happened multiple times and from multiple people, and it gets incredibly creepy. It does. It crosses a line when you are approaching someone's partner. You don't know either of these people. You don't know their actual personal situation.
Yeah.
And trying to get between them. I find that incredibly destructive. I find that incredibly just all these people they attack people for harassing them on Twitter, for instance.
Yeah.
Yet they will, send messages on Discord, send personal messages, PMs on Twitter. They'll go on people's Facebook accounts. There's been, I'm sure if they could, they'd approach people in real life if they had the information. It's incredibly creepy, the things that happen where they try and get in between people's real life personal relationships for online jokes.
Yeah.
And I'm not someone who likes to shout these things out. I'm not someone who likes to make myself look like a victim of harassment. But this happens to me and has happened to me for a very long time on at least a weekly basis. Oh, Sophia seems to have dropped out
has she?
for a second.
Oh,
maybe the Hangout bugged out or something. We'll try and get her back.
yeah.
There,
Yeah, she should be back in just a minute. Just whilst we're waiting for Sophia to get back in, British Knight, vaccines don't cause autism, but transgenders certainly seem to. Yeah, that's true. Sophia is back from the looks of things. Yep.
Yep, sorry about
Not
that.
sure what happened there, but
My Google Chrome like wigged out.
Oh yeah, the thing
I
is
use
with Hangouts,
Opera most of the time, so.
The thing is with Hangouts is Google Chrome doesn't like Google Hangouts.
So, here's quite an interesting one from Patrick. What is the British right's home? What's left of the Tories, a progressive light? Brexit Party is an anti-EU left-right mix. UKIP has moderate policies. I was thinking about this. Like, the problem that I have with Brexit Party, because I'm going to be voting Brexit Party. I'm doing it as more of a protest vote. I don't know too much about what exactly it is that they stand for. I've seen that their policies are going to be very similar to UKIP, but that's kind of about it. What I want to see is an actual home for the right in the UK. We don't get that anymore from the Tories. I keep on being told to vote UKIP. I don't know when it comes to UKIP. Part of me feels obliged to because of Dank and Sargon, and they kind of told Dank that he had my vote. But I at the same time I want to actually be more of a protest voter, and I think that Brexit Party could be there. But there is a concern that we don't know what they stand for. They haven't announced what their manifesto is. Maybe voting UKIP would genuinely be better, but right now I'm probably more likely to vote Brexit Party.
I think the big problem with the Brexit Party is that they are a single issue party again. That's true. To be under Farage, they used to be about. UKIP was founded to stop the UK entering the euro, entering the pound. You know, getting rid of the pound and entering the euro as a currency.
Yeah.
That was the entire reason they were founded. And when that kind of passed, they floundered a bit up until the whole EU election thing came out, and they campaigned very hard. And the problem is, once the EU referendum happened, the UK voted to leave the EU, their issue essentially disappeared. Farage stepped down. It was a whole mess. It was a whole massive mess. And that's because they've made themselves a single issue party. And the problem with the Brexit Party is, once Brexit is over, once this is all done and dusted, either way, the Brexit Party will disappear.
Yeah.
Like what happened, they will collapse electorally, because their single issue will have been exhausted. There is no party. The problem is with UKIP is that they have been attempting to transition from that single issue party into a general new centre-right, more populist party for the UK. And they have been absolutely curb stomped by the establishment by trying to do that. They have not fared very well. They've lost a lot of their activist base, lost a lot of their donors. And I think it's in the UK's current political landscape, especially pre-Brexit, pre-whatever reformation is going to happen in the elections, it's very difficult for any kind of populist right, I'd say semi-Trumpian, just what people want, basically, from politics. Seems to be, these days, a bit more right. A party like that almost has no chance of emerging in Britain's current state, especially with the laws they're enacting about trying to stop people becoming MPs, if they've been quote-unquote online trolls. A lot of the malicious communication stuff, the stuff that Dankula was convicted on, the stuff that people are being investigated on constantly currently, it's very, very difficult for alternative politicians to emerge. We saw it happen with Tommy Robinson, we saw it happen with Sargon, we're seeing it happen with Dankula, we're seeing it happen with all those people right now. In that they will be tarred and feathered, they will be pilloried, and they will be destroyed. At least in the mainstream media.
And part of me does... Sorry,
go on. Yeah.
Like, part of me does kind of think to almost on principle vote UKIP, because the smearing in particular against Sargon has been unreal. Like, I've tried to talk to people who I know about how misleading a lot of these smears have been, and people just will not hear it. And it's just on. It's kind of at the point where Sargon could go out and cure cancer and AIDS and the Israel-Palestine conflict.
And he would still be evil.
He would still be considered a piece of shit.
They have Sargon derangement syndrome. Not to leave Sophia out of this discussion though. A similar question to you.
It's true.
I think that a lot of people in the US are they're more socially liberal but more economically conservative in many ways. Like, how do you post-Trump? Do you see there being a solution to like the Republican problem in that a lot of people aren't quote unquote traditional conservatives? They aren't cultural or social conservatives. They aren't religious conservatives, but they do gel a lot more with the economic policies and free speech and, you know, gun rights and all that of the right. Do you see an alternative emerging in the US post-Trump, or do you think they're going to sadly stick with the same polar two-party system?
I think for the time being, we're still going to have the whole stupid two-party system. I do, depending on how 2020 goes, I could see some substantive changes come 2024. Like, the fact that we are this two-party system is ridiculous. The fact that there isn't like a strong independent or centrist party is totally crazy in my mind. I don't know. It's a tough question because like there's been times in the past where I was like, all right, this is going to change it. This is going to be the catalyst. And then the two sides just went further and further into crazy town. And I don't know where we go after Trump. I don't know. Like, I feel like both sides are so crazy. I don't know. Like, I honestly, I don't have an answer. I guess I think it's going to remain the two-party for now. I just hope that something changes.
I think if anything was to break the two-party system in America, it would be Trump.
Yeah, but
like, Trump is the wrecking ball to all of this.
If he
hasn't done it, instead the Republicans have just got in line behind him. That they've stopped challenging him now. So it seems like they want it, despite all this rhetoric against him about how bad he is. All of these people, like almost without exception, now follow him along. So if they're going to do that, that would be the point where you would splinter away and think, right, the Republicans being hijacked by Trump, we're going to set up our own party with our own principles. But they didn't do that.
Blackjack.
Yeah.
No, because they want the power. Like they have the power, and that's really all it comes down to. That's all these people care about. And you would think that he would have caused much more things, but it's really, I mean, all the media, you know, sensationalism aside, a lot of what's happening isn't that much different than what's happened in the past. My only big issue with Trump is how seriously understaffed a lot of key areas of government still are. But I guess it's going to come down to how 2020 goes. I mean, I'm guessing he is going to run, and if he runs, I do think he's going to win in 2020. For better or worse, he's going to win. There's no way the Democrats are going to come back and take it now at this point. And I guess it really just depends on how the next 4 years go. But for so long, I mean, even when Obama was in office, everything's just felt like a waste of time. Like, there's so many major things we need to address as a country, and really nothing's changing. It's all staying the same, and we're just wasting time. Nothing's getting fixed. Nothing's getting repaired. Everything's just going to worse. Like, our infrastructure here is a disaster. Our education system is a disaster. But no, let's keep dumping like hundreds of billions of dollars into maintaining bases in countries who don't even need bases anymore. It's like everything is all the same. Nothing's changing. And whether it was Obama, whether it's Trump, whoever comes next, nothing's getting done here. It's why in a lot of ways I just tune out of politics now and just focus on the social issues or areas where I have interest, like gaming. And
I'm much more interested in actual kind of social issues and just the way in which we as a society deal with each other. I'm much more interested in kind of what everything around Trump is, rather than the actual policies that Trump is enacting. I find that's what I find fascinating, the splits in which it causes, why it causes it, and that both sides can't see that maybe they might be a little bit at fault over it.
Yeah.
That's the thing which is always fascinating. And it's why what fascinates me about Brexit. Like, I can't say whether it's going to be a success or not. But like what I can comment on is how Remainers and Leavers have acted, and a lot of my friendship group, especially offline, voted Remain, and their attitudes towards Brexiteers are absolutely atrocious. And that's kind of what pushed me towards being more accepting of being of Leave. Had they been more reasonable, I probably would still be a Remainer, but they're quite extreme rhetoric from otherwise rational people.
Here's an
That's
interesting
what broke
question.
me out.
Go on.
So here's something I tend to ask a few people, because I'm always interested on like personal experience stuff. Would you say you get more blowback for being trans, being transgender, or for having the, let's say, less mainstream opinions that you do? More, I don't want to say rightly, but more the right kind of woke. I hate the term red pill. It's become a meme based in red pill and all that, but I don't know how any other way to couch it, because a lot of what people say isn't necessarily right wing. It's more just, you know, it's more alternative politics.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Red pill
I
doesn't mean right wing. It just means just being more.
But it means a lot of different things to other people.
I get more. I don't get a lot of blowback for being trans. I mean, the most transphobic. It's funny. So 5-ish years ago, I was very much someone who identified on the left, not the fringes, but I identified as a progressive, as a leftist, a Democrat. And then in the last few years, my views have shifted more and more. And growing up, you're always told like, oh, the right is all these bigots. They hate gays. They hate trans. They hate all this. But yet, now that I'm on this side, the most transphobic abuse, and just the most abuse I get in general, comes from the left. They'll use my identity to throw it in my face. Like, as you guys see, I get called like a bootlicker, a self-loather, a TERF, a transphobe, all that nonsense every day.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my actual identity, I get no abuse. Whether like no one on the right ever really abuses me for being trans, minus like maybe the one lone comment like every couple months. And so the most backlash I get is definitely for having views that go outside of what most people would consider the mainstream, because a lot of these people are so indoctrinated that when you hear a view that's like not your own, people just attack it so much. And I mean, it's more bred due to how online is. Like, we've created this reactionary system where with this call out culture where you get likes, and when you get more likes, you get the dopamine rush, and so you're going to do it more and more. And so there's all these people that are just attacking people for the quote unquote wrong views because it blows them up. And so my identity, I don't get attacked for very much unless the left wants to throw it in my face. If that all makes sense. Sorry, kind of rambled.
No. That makes a lot of sense.
That does make a lot of sense, yeah.
Since kind of coming out as being a bit more like center right, I've like I'll have a look at some of the people who I associate with online and on YouTube. Like, yeah, Academic Agent, Dankula, Sargon, a lot of people who've never really, whenever we've discussed like the fact that I am trans, it's always in a much more of a what is my opinion on this? What is my that's what the real focus of it is. Like, whenever AA talks to me about it, it's always with that kind of mindset. And the similar thing with the Britisher as well. And I've had a lot of respect from the right, and I've always been made to feel like my view is what makes it important, not my identity, not the fact that I'm trans, but the fact that I have this opinion. And my opinion is what matters. And ultimately, that's what a lot of all of this comes down to. Because if you have a look at some of my videos, I get abuse from both gender critical feminists, but mainly the vast majority of the abuse I get is from other trans activists who aren't happy with the fact that I have the views that I do on trans stuff.
They can be fucking vicious.
They are very vicious. These are the people. Sorry.
I was just going to quickly say, and that goes into what I was saying earlier about like why a lot of trans people like us are afraid to speak up, because this conglomerate of the radical left trans group, they're the worst bullies. Like they scare people from speaking up.
Yeah,
they're vicious.
These are the ones who insult my appearance more than anyone else. Like, bearing in mind, I've just had facial feminization surgery, and I will be repeatedly. Thank you. Like, you know, I will be constantly told by them, like, "Oh, you can tell that's a proper fat manly face," and I'm like, I literally just spent like thousands of pounds making it look feminine. Like, don't be an idiot. Like, it clearly looks much more feminine than it used to. and these will always be people who are hiding behind avatars as well. And it's why I always get interested when I get comments about appearance from people who I can't see. But these are the ones who will always be attacking more so than anyone else. Like, I do get comments from the gender critical side that are quite vicious, that are quite nasty, that are uncalled for. But the amount that I would say I get much more abuse from trans people, from the people who are supposed to be on my side. They make this big point about listen to trans people. Trans people will tell you what's what. Oh, but not her though. Not her. No. She's a bootlicker. She's true scum. She's a TERF. Like, I get this so much, and it's all about your views.
So much.
Yeah, it's all about the view, like your views. Like, none of this is kind of like they try and paint everything as though it's, and this is a big thing on the left. Like, they'll try and paint any kind of disagreements like, oh, you hate me because I'm trans, you hate me because of this, because of that. It's all about the views, but they aim everything around the identity because they don't separate the identity from the belief. These two things are incredibly intrinsic to each other, and so they think that it's all one and the same when nothing could be further from the truth. Like, look at the amount of people who speak to both myself, Sophia, other trans people. Look how big people like Calvin Kerr is and stuff like that. Like, there's clearly a lot of trans people who don't follow along with the trender crowd, but we're being attacked. We get attacked for it. We get attacked viciously.
Support trans women until they say something you disagree with.
Yeah. Like,
that's kind of what they do.
Oh, it is. And like they get very vicious and very, very, very unforgiving about it as well. The second you speak out against them. Like, I've seen trans, like there's one particular, like, quite absolute massive douche on Twitter. You might have seen a Cursed E or someone, just constantly gets in arguments with like other trans women about things and will always respond with like lol fam to everything. But like, I've seen people like grovelingly apologize to her in the past, and she's just been like, "Nope, too late. You're still a piece of shit." And it's like, what the hell else do you want? Like, it's nothing is ever kind of good enough for these people. Just to kind of read a few more super chats before I forget. Evil Mouth says, "Always vote according to your principles." That's absolutely true. And then again, your FFS looks amazing, Rose. I'm also jealous as fuck. Thank you so much. And Architect of Fate, $5 again. Thanks. Do you know how old Britisher is? We know he met Caligula in person, but did he see the founding of Rome and Athens? I genuinely don't know how old Britisher is. I'm gonna guess he's, like, as a serious guess, I would say he's about 50.
I saw the founding of Athens, but that it was terrible. Sargon has no idea how to set up a Discord. so I've been kind of quiet throughout discussion, but I've been making something. You'll see in a second.
Okay.
But I have been producing something.
just a bit of an offside. I'm genuinely surprised that Britisher isn't on Sargon's Discord, considering it's all like Rome themed.
It's one, it's Greece themed.
Oh, is it Greece?
Two,
okay, it's
not very well Greece themed.
Ancient world. Oh yes, Athens. Yes. Sorry,
yeah.
I always get confused with Sargon's Discord. Like I only really got into it in like the last month or so.
It's not worth it. Trust me. Oh dear. I always tell people that, like, hey fam, can you link Sargon Discord? I'm like, you don't want me to link Sargon. Tis a silly place. Here we go.
Slaughter wants me to say Scousers get the delouser.
God damn it, Slaughter.
Why do I have to say that?
You don't have to say it. Don't listen to Slaughter. He's a bad boy sometimes.
I said it.
Oh dear me. It's I asked that question because it's an experience I find reflecting a lot of people, and I don't.
Yeah.
I'm very wary that a lot of people try and talk for trans people. A lot of people say, "Oh, you're just saying you can't be transphobic because I have a trans friend." I'm like, no, I'm saying, look at these trans people over here, talk to them, and they will tell you you're a shit and you don't speak for them. Okay?
Yeah.
That's generally what I like to do. I hate I hate the fact that a lot of these people, a lot of the activists, try and speak for people. That's never been my thing, really.
They do.
I've been exploring this as kind of an outsider. I've been learning things, having had, relationships with trans women and all that. It becomes more apparent. You learn more things. I kind of became a lightning rod for certain issues at one point, especially on Twitter. But it's been interesting. It's been interesting going through this and interesting learning all these things and talking to a lot of people and learning that a lot of people. The thing is, you were talking about the DMs you get from people saying, "Oh my God, I had no idea more trans people didn't feel this way." And it's weird. I get a lot of those DMs as well, because a lot of people DM me, but they say, I had no idea that people had a problem with what you were saying. And like, oh my God, I can't speak out because a lot of the people who are attacking you are my friends. And I'm so sorry. I like every time I put my foot in it and say something mildly that's seen as mildly controversial, I get a lot of DMs from people saying, I can't speak out publicly, but I think what you're saying makes sense.
Do you guys want to hear something? Do you guys want to hear something crazy on this topic? I can't say who it is because private DMs and all, but I like to reach out to people I disagree with. My Twitter DMs are full of people that I despise, but I'll talk to them civilly. And so there's a popular trans writer. I can't say who it is, but she's pretty big. She's made a whole career out of this. And in a now deleted Medium post, I wrote it like a year and a half ago. I wrote this article going into all these issues I had with the trans community, like why I think non-binary is BS, why it shouldn't be tacked in with trans and all this stuff. Fun fact, the article was actually read by the Ian Miles Chong had boosted it, and it was read by the people at Quillette, and they had told me that if I had pitched it to them first, they would have hosted it. So I missed out on a chance to get on Quillette. But anyways, I'd written this article, and I sent it to this person. We would talk every now and then. We would disagree in chat, but we were civil enough. And again, this is a trans woman who made a career out of this, and she read it, and she said, whoa, I agree with most of what you said. But she straight up told me, I can't say that publicly. And so in public, I'm going to have to say the opposite. And she does. In her writing, on her tweets, she expresses the complete opposite of what she agreed with me on, because that's how she gets her little quote unquote woke points.
That's probably something which is a bit more common than you would think. Like, I remember I used to be friends with a British trans writer, quite a big name, called Paris Lees.
I can't stand her.
But like she actually helped me out at the start of my transition. I knew her before she was famous.
I'm jealous of her though. She's hot.
Oh, she looked great before she had FFS. Now she's amazing.
Yeah.
But like we used to bitch about all of this kind of non-binary and just like people who just can't be arsed passing and stuff. We used to bitch about that all the time. But then she got a big break, and now she toes the line.
I found that
T, and it's insane. And also I've just seen Scrump's picture that he's been
gaze upon my work. Gaze upon my work and despair. And I did it in the trans flag colours. Yes, yes.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to tweet that out afterwards. That is amazing.
To bring this back to how we started this podcast with Laura K. Dale, she's someone who she was friends with Total Biscuit, like they were actually good friends, and then because he became an enemy to the people she's in with, she threw him to the wolves and turned on him, going against the things she thought about the guy just to keep it with what they think. Like, these people don't hold true to anything they believe. They'll just say whatever they have to get more popularity. They're all disingenuous frauds.
Oh yeah. And all of it is simply because at the moment the progressive intersectional narrative, that's what pays the bills for everyone. That's why it's being enforced in websites where it has nothing to do with anything, like in bloody Kotaku.
Yeah, or it's like Anna Valens talking smack about the Mary Sue and how she doesn't want to write for them or Gamergate, while she was writing for them about Gamergate and how she's now made a career out of this stuff. Like they'll say stuff behind the scenes like, "Oh, I don't think this," but then when they write about it, they'll express that they think it, and so then that becomes like more and more people fall under that thing of like it's all one big lie. Like, it's insane. So many of the people write this, they don't believe it.
Yeah.
I'm retarded. I tried to unmute myself to say something there, and I unmute. How dare you? You see, Sophia, I'm kind of retarded. No, I tried unmuting myself there, and I wondered why you weren't hearing me. Then I realized I unmuted myself on Discord and not on the Hangouts because I'm an idiot.
Well done, Scrump.
Oh no! But I'm gonna leave this UwUKIP as my thing now. This is just gonna be me
Okay,
for
I'm
the
gonna
rest of the stream.
I'm gonna use that as the thumbnail for this stream afterwards.
Yes.
Right.
I've just noticed I've not filled it in properly. It's actually really badly done, but oh well, it's part of the charm.
So I think there's another super chat came. British Knight. Sargon's Discord is silly, but it sure ain't Dankula's Sargon. Dankula's Discord. Tis a dark and scary place. I joined Dankula's Discord for about 5 minutes.
Which version?
Because the one which has just been made, not the one that got nuked, like the new one. And I got kind of creeped out.
This is his third Discord.
Yeah,
the original got nuked. And then the second Discord, they created something known as the Magna Carta. The tale of the Magna Carta is a little interesting. What they did was they got someone to code something that basically says you have to type in like I consent to write on the Discord. So they emailed the Discord admins and they said the only way they could show some of the extreme content that isn't necessarily against the TOS, but might get people banned for posting, is that everyone on the server consents to seeing it. So they literally made it so you have to consent to seeing it to actually post on the server, which I thought was an act of genius. But do not go to Dankula's Discord. 'Tis a silly place. Even I won't go there, and I'm an edgy boy. So
yeah, it's a bit messed up. Like Dan had like warned me from joining it on several occasions, but eventually I was just like, I'm curious. I'm gonna see where this goes, and yeah, I was there for 5 minutes. And I was just like, right, I'm gonna go somewhere much safer. Go back to the deep lore or something like that, where I can actually, not see anything, which was just gonna ruin my life. Let's just say. So
now I'm curious. I want to see it. You should link it.
I can't remember where the link is now. Like I think I used to have.
I'm gonna live dangerously. I'm gonna go visit it later.
Like it's worth having it's kind of worth having a look if you're curious, I would say, but it is at the same time.
Like my sexuality, I'll try everything once.
So the stream's been going on for quite a while now. Actually, it's going on a bit longer than I expected. You guys want to continue, or is it you want to start wrapping it up?
We could probably start wrapping up a little bit. I think we have a bit to talk about, though. I think it's coming to more of a natural conclusion now.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question, one more serious point that I'd like to ask you both about.
Yeah.
What is, in terms of what you've seen personally, what is the worst case of like LGBT community gatekeeping you have witnessed personally?
That is quite a hard one because I've seen so much.
Honestly, I'll take it while you think about it.
Yeah, please.
It's the topic I write about often or express on Twitter, and that we were addressing a little bit earlier. The gatekeeping with the LGBT community is that if you express something that's wrongthink, you're not part of that community. You're not gay enough for them. You're not trans enough. You say that one thing outside their politics, you're unpersoned. And in a lot of ways, that's gatekeeping because for a lot of people, I lived in the closet until I was 25. I didn't even come out as bi until I was 23 or 24. I was terrified. And then I came out as trans. And when you come out, like for all intents and purposes, I'm disowned by my family, so I didn't have a lot of people. This was at a time when I'd gotten out of the military, so it was kind of a weird time for me. I didn't have a lot of friends, and so when I came out as gay, the only people I started going to gay clubs to try like get in, make some friends. And there's a lot of gay, trans, or whatever people that are lonely, don't have friends, don't have family. But now, if you express something that if you can express one thing they disagree with. One thing, you can agree with them on 99 things, but if you disagree with them on the 100th, you're not welcome in their little club. And so the gatekeeping is that you have to think like them in all times, or you're not part of that. And so it's hurting a lot of LGBT people who need that place to go, who need that community to rely on. And I mean, I have a lot of qualms with the LGBT community, and I always put it in good quotes when I talk about it. But it is a thing that a lot of people rely on, and a lot of people need. And now you're not welcome to it.
Yeah,
I sure as hell am. I mean, I can call myself a tranny. Just because I like the word, and because I say the word tranny, I'm unpersoned, even though I'm talking about myself. And and then you throw in politics, like, hell, there's some people that are probably pro-gun but anti this or that, but because you're that pro-gun, you're not part of them anymore.
If there's one,
Hope that made sense.
no, it does, and that speaks directly to my experiences within the queer community. If there was one particular political subject that symbolizes that more than anything, it is Brexit. The day after the referendum, the amount of people I knew in the queer community who basically said, look, if you voted to leave, you're no longer welcome in our spaces. And these would just be liked en masse. And there were people I knew within the queer community who did vote to leave. Not a single person could talk about it at all. Because everyone was this united front of, you voted to leave, you are a bigot. And this is something which is kind of spelled out into the wider LGBT community. When you have websites like my former employer, Gay Star News, saying about how like, you know, remain LGBTI people want to remain, and you know, if people that want to leaving is homophobia, and they tried to say that, you know, gay rights will be removed if we leave because Jacob Rees-Mogg is against same-sex marriage. And like, that's a massive leap there. Like, I don't quite see it, but you get you get these kind of political strains that are very much run through the whole community, that are completely inescapable no matter where you go, unless you really go off the plantation. And it's very, but what makes this particularly dangerous is the kind of people who want to go and find the queer community, so to speak, are people who are in vulnerable positions. These are people who might have just come out as being trans or bi or gay or whatever, and they'll go into a community that will instantly tell them that the whole world hates them and everyone is out to get you. But then they will also make it clear that some views are not accepted. So you're stuck, because you're brainwashed into thinking everyone's going to kill you. So you have to agree with what everyone else says. Otherwise, this safe and loving environment is going to cast you out and you're going to be thrown to the wolves. And how are you going to survive in current year with roaming gangs of MAGA hat wearing Nigerians? You're not going to, you're not going to survive.
Touché.
And so,
yeah.
yeah, and so you're not going to survive, and people are terrified to speak out. And when you get a lot of queer people one-on-one, you will find that they agree with a lot of what you say. They are just terrified of the whole community saying it, or finding out. So you've got to burn that bridge, you know, completely napalm it, and then just think, I'm going to speak out on my own. And one of my ideas is maybe we can start our own community where we can get more reasonable trans, even if it's just through YouTube, more
And I think
reasonable trans people, like, you know, some good channels. I just want to give another shout out to another quite massively underrated channel called Transbro. Like, I was on they did an interview with me a few weeks ago. They actually interviewed Book Angel yesterday. Severely underrated channel. Everyone should check them out. But there needs to be more of us. More of us need to be speaking out.
And I think there's gonna be. I think in a few years we are gonna see a shift. I think in some minor ways we're starting to see it now. I think some people are starting to wake up to the insanity on both sides, and everyone's just looking at it and just being like, this can't happen. This can't stay this way.
Yeah.
And I think eventually, especially as people get older, you hit a point where you can only lie to yourself for so long. Like, you can only remain untrue to yourself for so long. Like, you'll have these influencers that are going to keep doing it because that pays their bills and that brings in the money. But for like the general public, I think people are going to start turning on this nonsense, and they're going to start being more true to what they think, especially as they do see more people like you, me, and others keep this going.
The reasonable trannies. The thing is, we need to rise. We need to show that there are other views, and it doesn't matter what kind of
rise up.
Exactly. We need to just get trending on TikTok or something.
Oh no.
But yeah, like so I think this is a good time to wrap it up. This has been going much longer than I was expecting. This
It's
is
fun though.
this has been a brilliant stream. It's also been the
Yes.
first stream I've done without Not So Obvious, or without me and Mark being
This
on.
was one of my first streams in general. So hey,
really?
everyone. Yeah.
I'm glad. Like, you've both been absolutely brilliant guests. I want to do more streams like this. Like, I think I'm really starting to get a bit more of a hang on doing streams. I want to get a thing, you know, more of a regular thing going.
I would quite like to do more streams over at the Sophia Narwitz channel. I just need to make sure. I just need to get Dev to give me the keys to the car, basically. I've been thinking about doing it for a while, and I've got OBS Studio up running again, and I'm pretty. I've quietly been streaming for years on different platforms. Really.
Yeah. Well, you need to
if
make
I
sure
can
that
do...
I come on again, because I really enjoyed
Oh, no,
being on there.
Yeah,
Dancing with
Scrump, you
Scrump.
still need to get me on your show. For the
I know. We're having, like, Dev's been on holiday, and
I
there's
wondered
just
why a lot of his work had like kind of quietened down. Like,
he avoids burnout by doing that. I think it's good policy.
no, it is. No, it really is.
You got to put real life stuff first. If I can do a last minute bit of shilling, I'm not going to shill myself. It's a weird shill, but a friend of mine does a little semi parody podcast on SoundCloud of all things, called Truth or Nation, which is basically almost like a parody of like Alex Jones, but even further. I think it's absolutely hilarious. It's well edited. More people need to listen to that. So a shout out to my friend Adrian, Ace, and he does a great job of recording that show just out of left field. I remember he came to me with the idea of it. I'm like, dude, just go and make that. That's genius. And the end result was actually pretty good. So weird shill, but that's my last shill.
Speaking of shilling, can I selfishly shill some of my own stuff real quick?
Please do.
Just in case any of you aren't familiar with me, you can follow me on Twitter at SophNar0747, and I highly recommend checking out my YouTube channel, where I take every article I've written and turn it into a video, because some people don't like reading, but they'll watch a video. And then also, I'm a senior writer at Niche Gamer, and I just this week put out one hell of a expose that I highly recommend you check out, called The End of Integrity, Tech and Gaming Journalism in the Trump Age. And then just one last thing, I can't say where, but in 2 weeks, I will have a very awesome career opportunity announcement. I just got hired by someone, and it's pretty big.
That's awesome. Please check out sorry, you want to say something?
I was just going to say too, and if you do like my content, I have a GoFundMe to afford some of my tranny surgeries and a couple other things. So if you do like my content, please check that out too. I put a lot of work into what I do, and I don't get paid very much for it. So my GoFundMe is kind of like how I earn towards that.
Just so, just one last super chat from Zurindu. The wokeness insanity is only just starting here in New Zealand and won't go away soon. Any advice? Just don't stop speaking out against it, really. I mean, I know it's gripped New Zealand very, quite especially since the massacre.
Yes.
But I think, like, just continue to speak out against it. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Just one last plug few last plugs from myself. So I do have a Patreon and Subscribestar account set up. I don't make a lot from advertising on YouTube, because pretty much all of my videos are instantly demonetized. So if any of you guys enjoy my content, please feel free to subscribe, and you will help me get pizza and other art for my channel and recording stuff. Trans Stupid will be back on Tuesday, as per usual. Got a lot of interesting stories to talk about. There's going to be another video upcoming, because people asked for it, on my experiences of dating as particularly a post-op transsexual. And finally, the next episode of Pillars of the Community will be out within the next few weeks, hoping to get it out sooner rather than later. And this is going to be on an individual called Stefankny. Don't try and look into that one, because it might be good as a surprise. Second of all, your eyes will be scarred. So, Scrump, did you want to?
I have one last thing to say. I've been instructed to tell people that Cab is in fact gay, so that's that. Cab is gay. That's all I have to say.
Cab is gay. So with that, thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm going to try and do more of these streams in the future. Follow Sophia and Scrump on Twitter, and I will see you all next time.
Bye, everyone.